Just turning to health, I've confessed to the organiser that whilst I am the AIDS ambassador, I'm not planning to go down that path unless someone wants to later. But looking at health overall, there is some good news. Donor assistance overall has doubled in this area since the year 2000. And the increased investments producing results, first time ever, in 2006, fewer than 10 million children under 5 died. A horrific figure, but better than it was. Some countries in our region have done particularly well in reduction of death rates. Cambodia, Bangladesh, and even surprisingly Nepal in the middle of a civil war. There's encouraging progress. It can be done. Also in that period, you've seen an extraordinary commitment by donor countries to ensure access to HIV prevention and treatment. I must at this point say Australia will release its new international HIV strategy by the early part of next year, responding to the local epidemics, of which heterosexual transmission in PNG and men who have sex with men and aid users in East Asia are the two dangerous areas for the future for us in this region, on top of course, horrendous rates in Africa. But that's improved. More people are getting treated. The expansion of disease, at least at the moment, has reduced. Where there's really a positive message to be had is in malaria, where there's a real chance of rolling back malaria across the world. There's a program to produce 210 million insecticide-treated bed nets by 2010. And new antimalarials, if they're rolled out fast, can really have a substantial effect on decreasing this killer around the world. Australia has a particular program with the Pacific Island nations and looking at rolling back malaria in human populations, at least, in Vanuatu and a number of other countries in the coming years. The whole campaign is generational, but the early start's very good and there's a prospect of a vaccine. So the sort of huge money, $12 billion that's been rolled into, say, the Global Fund for Malaria, TB and AIDS, is starting to pay off. In a local measure, by the way, can I say the Prime Minister in New York announced a few months ago there will be a conference in Brisbane early next year on the lessons and successes to date in addressing malaria in this region, so you might be interested to come to that. There also needs to be a lot more done though, and particularly MDGs 4 and 5, maternal and child health, the rates are still horrific. Our Prime Minister in New York again signed up to the Global Leaders Group to look at increasing resources for health spending and health systems. Under that group there's an innovative financing working group which will be meeting in Doha at this Millennium Financing Summit that's on next month that our Parliamentary Secretary will go to. On the edges of that, this new meeting on mobilising even more resources for health will be underway. And as a personal measure, can I say, the group underneath them, which includes me, meets at 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. every fortnight by video. This is punishment for being a public servant. There's a core role for the United Nations in the whole MDG promotion and measuring. So it's terrific we've got a representative from the UN here from Bangkok today. We have strong and growing partnerships with NGOs, of course, and there's an extraordinary growth too in corporate philanthropy. The Melinda and Gates Foundation spends a lot on AIDS, on malaria, the George Soros Open Foundation, and closer to home the Atlantic Philanthropies, a group funded by Chuck Feeney of Duty Free Shoppers, is working with QUT to radically expand healthcare and nursing education in Vietnam. There are a lot of good stories, but a huge challenge ahead. So let me finish by answering the question you should be asking, well, what's the big picture? What's Australia really doing? The Australian government has made a commitment to achieve a ratio of 0.5%, or our aid should be 0.5% of our gross national income by 2015. It's about 0.32% at the moment. That's a huge increase. The dollar figure will depend on growth rates, of course, in our economy over that time, which is a bit topical, I guess, this month. But it's still a very, very big commitment. In the next 4 years, Australia will spend $2 billion in health to strengthen national health systems and particularly the priority health needs of women and children. Over $1.5 billion over 4 years to put more kids in school and improve the quality of education. And over $500 million to improve public sector capacity in the Pacific and East Timor. Other things I won't run through now, but are either announced or about to be, include a lot of money on climate change, of course, food security initiatives, essential infrastructure improvement, and particularly transport and water and sanitation, which is always the poor sister of all the other announcements. And next week, a major statement on assisting families and people with disabilities. Having said that, and trying very quickly to outline what the government's doing, I'd like to hear the other presenters too. So thank you very much for your attention.